Good morning, and welcome to the November 29th service of the Unitarian Congregation of Guelph. My name is Naomi Matsui, and I am one of a number of people participating in this morning's service, as you've already heard. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this virtual service. And can I just ask everyone to remain muted unless you're actually speaking? Our community celebrates diversity in age, gender, sexual orientation, and race. Whatever your journey, whatever path has led you here, you are welcome in our community of seekers. The Unitarian Congregation of Guelph, or the UCG, is lay-led. As well, we are supported by a quarter-time minister. During the month of November, our speakers are exploring different aspects of creativity. This morning, we welcome John Buttars as our speaker, and I will introduce John later on. We invite you to check out our website for future services and events. If you're interested in receiving our weekly email, click on the heading called Newsletters and E-News and sign up. Once we're able to gather in person again, we will resume our religious exploration program for school-aged children, as well as childcare for younger children. We also normally have a youth group that meets regularly. As we gather today, we are reminded that Guelph is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history, and that today is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We recognize the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation of the Anishinaabe peoples, on whose traditional territory we live and work. These lands have also been home to the Haudenosaunee and Hanantan or Attawandaron peoples. We acknowledge the tragic history between First Peoples and settlers. As Guelphites and Unitarians, we accept the responsibility of shared stewardship of the land and respectful relationships with its Indigenous peoples. Our opening words this morning are by Mary Oliver. It is a silver morning like any other. I am at my desk. Then the phone rings or someone raps at the door. I am deep in the machinery of my wits. Reluctantly I rise. I answer the phone or I open the door. And the thought which I had in hand or almost in hand is gone. Creative work needs solitude. It needs concentration, without interruptions. It needs the whole sky to fly in, and no eye watching until it comes to that certainty which it aspires to, but does not necessarily have at once. Privacy, then, a place apart. To pace, to chew pencils, to scribble and erase, and scribble again. And now we'll have Holly, Galen, and Audrey to light our chalice.
Whoa, 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 whoa. That's scary what's in it.
Okay, let's read it. In this flame, we witness the power of transformation, awed again by the wonder of life. We are grateful to be vital to this living universe and inspiring community.
Our first song this morning it's one that's familiar to Unitarians, but the words in this version are a little bit different. So this version was put together near the beginning of the pandemic by a virtual choir and orchestra in New York City. So you can follow along and sing with the video as it's playing, and Carrie will put the words up in the chat.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far off hymn that hails a new creation.
No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth.
How can I keep from while all the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth, and though the darkness round me grows, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the cloud grows thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway smooths. Since first I learned to love it, no storm can shake my inmost calm. I hear the music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing?
And now I'd like to introduce this morning's speaker, John Buttars, and he has our story for us this morning. John has spoken at the UCG many times over the past years. He's a retired United Church minister who has lived in Guelph with his partner Barbara since 1976. For the first 3 decades, he was one of the ministers at Harcourt Memorial United Church. John and Barbara have 2 daughters and 3 grandchildren. John?
Okay, thanks, Naomi. So I'm going to ask again whether I can be heard. Okay. So on Friday, I made some soup. That's no big deal. I pulled together a bunch of ingredients: beans, squash, carrots, onions, spices, and brought into existence a new reality. It didn't exist before. And that's what create means, to bring something in that never existed before. And then creative adds some intensity to be imaginative and inventive. So I looked at a recipe, but some ingredients I didn't have and one I don't like. So I had to be inventive. Now, it's one thing to create something, but it's quite another thing to share it with other people. So the soup I made, only I'm making it, only I'm eating it, not even Barbara. Not because it's not good, but some of the ingredients she can't eat. So that's just to acknowledge that we can create something, but sometimes it's scary to share it with other people. Maybe they won't like it. Maybe they'll say they're not interested in it. Now, I have two friends here in Guelph who have just created something new. I'm not going to read the book. It's a brand new book, and it's been written by Greg Kennedy and illustrated by Carrie Wilson. And it's called Amazing Friendships Between Animals and Saints. And the reason I want to share this little book with you is because one person, Greg Kennedy, thought up the idea, and he was talking about it to his friend, Marilyn Gillespie, saying he needed an illustrator, and Marilyn knew Carrie. So it was one person at a time. So I have here a book from the Guelph Library, and it's a children's book. So I'm going to have to call out the child inside of each one of you. And the title of the book is I Am One. How do I make a difference? It seems like a tall order for one so small. But beautiful things start with just one seed to start a garden, one stroke to start a masterpiece, one note to start a melody, one step to start a journey, one brick to start breaking down walls. And I can speak one gentle word to start a conversation. I can use my one soft voice to start a friendship. I can perform one act of kindness to start a connection. I can share one tender hug to start caring. I can light one candle to start leading the way. I can make one drop in the water to start ripples that become swells, then waves, traveling over oceans, across borders and boundaries, landing on distant shores, to start a chain reaction, inspire a movement, make a change. I am one, and I can take action. We are each one, and we can take action. One by one, we can make a difference, because one is all it takes to start something beautiful. So create, the business of bringing into existence, with the added layer of creativity, inventiveness, and imagination. And I'm one, and you're one. And yes, it takes courage to turn my one into a wave. So that's my story for this morning.
Thank you, John. Although we are unable to meet face-to-face for a while, we continue to bring you weekly services in electronic format. In addition, many others are creating opportunities for us to gather for other programming, chat rooms, etc. Our newsletter is still going out weekly. We continue to rely on the support of members and friends in many ways, including your financial support. Please consider giving as you would normally by following the link on our website. If you click on the heading called Donations, you will see instructions on the right side of the page for sending an e-transfer or donating through Canada Helps. Every donation is a gift. So I was saying, it's a real pleasure to welcome you back this morning, John. And the title of John's talk this morning is Creativity. What story am I telling myself?
So it's wonderful to have Eleanor here from the other side of the continent, Turtle Island. And since we've got somebody from Miami, Manitoba, can I tell a story about Miami, Manitoba? So in 1971, I became the United Church minister of Melita, Napinka, and Tilston United Churches, southwestern corner of Manitoba. And early on, I was doing the church service at Melita, and I was shaking hands at the door, and a woman said she was from Miami. And I said, "Oh my goodness, you've driven a long ways to get here." Well, Miami is a ways from Melita, but it's not in Florida. Oh well, when I think about people whom I would name as creative, I think of people in that video that we watched, the singers and the musicians. I think of people who have great abilities, the ability to compose a song, the ability to paint or sculpt a piece, the ability to create a safe environment where a wounded person can reveal a bit of their soul. But over the last week, since I was asked to talk about this, I've wondered whether creativity depends on a number of other qualities. And so I've mentioned one already. You know, you can be creative, but then it takes courage to share your creativity with others. And the other one that I've been thinking about is honesty. Honesty with oneself, and then honesty with others. And the way honesty surfaced in my mind and heart was through my second cousin, Brian. And he sends out emails, countless unsolicited emails that have increased during these COVID days. And they provide visual distractions. I don't look at all of them. Such as an artist who uses chalk to create illusions, and a body artist who creates illusions on her own body, and a group of people who have to climb incredible bamboo ladders to get to their homes. The impacts on Yellowstone National Park with the introduction of wolves. A few months ago, he sent out one called A Higher Call. The story of an American bomber in 1943, having dropped its load of bombs on Germany and was trying to get out back to England, but it was heavily damaged. And a German fighter plane chanced upon it, but the German did not shoot the American bomber down. And the Americans couldn't shoot the German fighter down. And instead, the German fighter began to fly wingtip to wingtip. First of all, trying to signal to the American pilot to land in Germany. He would guide him down, and at least he would be only a POW instead of who knows what. And then he tried to signal for him to fly towards Sweden. But the American bomber pilot kept trying to go west to get back over the North Sea and to England. So the German fighter pilot escorted through the German anti-aircraft guns and out into the North Sea, the American bomber. And before banking away, saluted the Americans. Now, I was mesmerized by that short video, so I passed it on to my friend, Hank Dykeman, a retired United Church minister like me here in Guelph, and I've wondered if he had heard the story. Hank was 11 years old when Canadians liberated his village in Holland, and he has been diligent over the years to make connections with the Canadian soldiers who liberated his area and with the families here in Canada whose loved ones died there, and also for getting those Canadians commemorated back in Holland. Amazingly, Hank knew the story, and he sent to me this book, A Higher Call, by Adam Makos. It was a New York Times bestseller even, and you can find it in the Guelph Library. Now, I have to say, I find it really hard to relate to the author of this book. In high school, he founded a magazine dedicated to the American military. And he continued the magazine in college and then after graduation. And this is what he says about himself. As the magazine editor, I enforced our 3 journalistic rules. Get the facts right, tell stories that show our military in a good light, and ignore the enemy. We do not honor them. So Adam Makos heard about the American bomber pilot, whose name, interestingly, was Charlie Brown. And he heard about this amazing event where a German fighter pilot didn't shoot the bomber down. And he contacted Charlie Brown, who said to him that he had to talk first to the German pilot, Franz Stigler, who lived in Vancouver, having immigrated to Canada in 1953. Now that put Adam Makos face to face with his own prejudice and his very deep aversion to hearing any story, let alone telling a story of an enemy who was also a man of honor. Now, what I find so interesting about this book is that it could have been written about Charlie Brown and his American crew. And yes, there is some of that in the book. But it is essentially a story from birth to death of Franz Stigler, a German fighter pilot throughout the whole war who shot down many Allied planes, but who on this one occasion did the incredible thing of having mercy on one plane and thereby committing treason, although he was never caught. And Adam Makos broke his own 3rd journalistic rule. Ignore the enemy. We do not honor them. It turns out that Franz Stigler, the German pilot, had absolutely no use for the Nazis. But he was a German citizen. He was committed to defending his own people. And just as a postscript, after Charlie and Franz met in their older years, they made many presentations across North America talking of that December day in 1943, arguing that enemies are better off as friends. So this is my point about creativity. Adam Makos, the author, wanted to write a book about this unbelievable wartime event, but he had no use for enemies. Charlie Brown said to him, "In this story, I'm just a character. Franz is the real hero." So Adam Makos was forced to do some soul searching before the book could even be created. The creative task of producing this book was first of all made possible by honest self-examination. Richard Wagamese wrote in his compelling memoir, One Native Life, "Stories are meant to heal." I love that line. Stories are meant to heal. I sense a healing in Adam Makos from his "America is always right and enemies are always wrong" attitude, to a recognition that goodness and integrity does belong to other peoples, even those regarded as enemies. And every day of our lives, we are creating our own stories about ourselves, about our families, about the world we live in. But those stories that we tell, those stories we create, they need to be supported by honesty. And they need to be told to each other for the purpose of healing. So think for a moment about the story or stories you are creating within yourself or in your families or among your friends about this COVID era. You can be sure we're going to be telling stories about these months for years to come. So you may have seen those two pictures of me, my COVID pictures, before seeing the barber and after. When Naomi asked for a picture, I sent both of those pictures. And I was telling myself last spring that I wanted to see what my curls would do, because I have fantasized for years about lovely locks that would flow right down to my shoulder. And now I had a chance to let my hair grow. And sad to say, I had to be honest with myself as I watched those giant curls on both sides of my head go out and not down. So I sent those two photos as a kind of humorous way to get at the stories we tell about ourselves. And they're stories of body image, stories of our family of origin, stories of the COVID days. In the most recent Maclean's magazine, there's a series of articles under the banner, "The Year That Changed Everything." And every couple of pages, there is a small yellow box with an interview of some well-known person with the question, "What did you think was true at the beginning of 2020 that you have since learned isn't?" It's an interesting question. What did you think was true at the beginning of 2020 that you have since learned isn't? Or I asked a similar question of a group that I facilitate at Dublin Street United. What have you learned during these COVID months? And I was humbled by the answers, because almost without fail, everyone had learned something that they felt they never would have learned or never would have tried without COVID. And that's exactly my situation too. So let me give you 4 things I have learned because of COVID. First of all, I have wondered, but I knew I would never do it. But I wondered whether I would be ever able to find the time to write a history of a cottage cooperative that my parents and some of their college friends founded in 1946. A cottage cooperative that I have been part of ever since I was 3 years old. So I have fantasized about writing this history, but I knew somewhere deep in my heart that I probably wouldn't get around to it until it was too late, until the pandemic came along. And then I thought, well, maybe it could be a COVID project. And I'm waiting to find out from the other members whether they'll support me in doing this. But it's just a little bit scary writing the first few pages and sending it out to them as a teaser. What will they think? And second, I have never understood myself as a hugging kind of guy, hugging others, having others hug me. But boy, I am dying to hug my children and my grandchildren. Because Barbara and I are still bubbled, just the two of us. Even though we get together with our family, we're still distanced. And third, my brain chemistry is very sensitive, it seems. Years ago, I was given a strong, broad spectrum antibiotic, and I didn't handle it very well, with my brain going haywire, rapid cycling up and down, mania to depression in a fraction of a second, it seemed. And I've never really been very open about admitting that my brain chemistry is sensitive to things like light and air pressure, particularly really severe low pressure systems. And why have I been ashamed to share that when I have no shame in telling people that I've got food and environmental allergies? It's another form of chemistry. It's just in a different part of my body. But COVID caused me to be honest with myself and others. And fourth, lots of people have been putting up lights early this year and extra lights too. And I began to wonder whether I might do something that originated in Christian faith, but in a way that anyone, atheist, agnostic, or anyone of other religion might be able to relate to. So I've been creating, cutting wood, painting 4 words that are associated with the 4 Sundays of Advent before the 12 days of Christmas. Today being the first Sunday of Advent. And the 4 words are hope, peace, joy, love. So when I put up the first word, hope, on Friday, I was apprehensive. I'm still apprehensive, I have to say. But while doing it, I had my back to the street, and I heard a car pull up behind me in front of our house, and the engine was left running. And eventually, I turned around, and a guy rolled down the passenger side window and shouted out, "Love the sign," and drove off. So I'm going to end this talk on creativity with the notion that maybe honesty and courage are part and parcel of the creative enterprise. And here are the 2 questions. What did you think was true at the beginning of 2020 that you have since learned isn't? Or what have you learned because of COVID? And in answering those questions, we're going to be creating and telling our COVID stories. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much, John. Lots for us to think about. So now we have a beautiful guided meditation that was created by Ryan Jackson.
Hi, I'm Ryan Jackson, and I would like to share with you a meditation on creativity. This month, our topics have all been about creativity, and meditation is actually a way to help enhance creativity. People sometimes think it's more of a discipline or a way to focus the mind, but at the same time, it's a way to allow creativity to happen, to give it space. So I'd like you to make yourself comfortable. Have your feet flat on the floor. Feel the contact that you have with the seat that you're sitting on or the ground, and sink into that contact to help relax. If you like, you can leave your eyes partially open, focused on something nearby, just with a soft gaze. And start to notice your breath. The inhale and the exhale. Not trying to make it anything more than it already is. And bringing your awareness to your chest as it rises and falls with each breath. And then bring your awareness to the center of your chest and imagine a little spark, a spark of creativity. And with each inhale, you can feel that spark being nurtured and growing, getting a little bit brighter. Feel it expand with each inhale till it fills your chest. Relaxing with the exhales. And then expanding again with the next inhale till perhaps it fills your whole body. It feels as if there's light shining inside your body. And just focus your awareness on your inhale and your exhale. With every inhale, feeling that light get brighter. And if you find your mind wandering, which it will, bring it back with the next inhale. If you want to, you can stay just within the body, or you can explore trying to expand that light, that awareness into the room around you. Again, just growing softly with each inhale and resting in the exhale, and then expanding a little bit more. If you like, carry this awareness to fill the whole building that you're in. Perhaps your neighborhood. Perhaps city, country, continent. Go as far as you feel comfortable and really able to keep those edges so that you can feel that space and that light. And just rest in whatever space you're in and focus on the inhale and the exhale as that nourishes that spark. Again, if your mind wanders, bringing it back to the next inhale. Slowly bring your awareness back into the building that you're in, into the room, into the body, noticing that sensation of light still there. The exhales and the inhales still able to rest and to nourish. Back into your chest. Into the awareness of your breath. Bring your awareness back to the contact that you have with your chair or the floor. If you closed your eyes, you can open them or bring your gaze back to something else. And notice the sensation that you have in your body now. Notice the quality of your mind. And if you like, maybe try this meditation on your own, again at a later date. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ryan. It was lovely. And our last song today is called We Shall Be Known. And it's being performed by Mamuse. And Carrie will be putting the words up in the chat again.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Love that song. Our closing words for today were chosen by our speaker, John, and they are by Richard Wagamese from his book, One Native Life. We are all neighbors. That's the reality. This land has the potential for social greatness. And within this cultural mosaic lies the essential ingredient of freedom, acceptance. That's an Aboriginal principle I've learned. When you know your neighbors, when you can lean over the fence and hear each other's stories, you foster understanding, harmony, and community. Stories are meant to heal. That's what my people say, and it's what I believe. And now Holly, Audrey, and Galen will extinguish the chalice.
We gather to light this chalice. We part the flame lit within us, an inspired community. Hey, Galen. Good job.
So a big thank you to all the people who helped put this service together this morning, to Carrie for looking after all the technical side of things, to Ruth and Bill for greeting people, and to Holly and her family for the chalice lighting and extinguishing, to Ryan for the meditation, and of course to John Buttars for your ever thoughtful presence, John, and for your words. Following the service, there will be time for casual conversation until 11:45, and at that time we'll begin a half-hour conversation circle with John. So I hope you will stay connected and join us for the chat and the conversation circle. Thank you.